What's old is new again. LGBTQ people share their unwritten rules. This is the focus group.
They're all business, except when they're not. It's the Focus Group with Tim Bennett and John Nash.
Welcome to the focus group. John Nash here with my good friend and co-host, Mr. Tim Bennett. Find us here on Wednesdays and our podcast, TFG Unbuttoned, on Tuesdays. But all of this is available at focusgroupradio.com, including information about our sponsors and about Tim and myself. So here we are in the last week of March. The week got started by a slap on the Oscars, and it's spun out from there. So here we are, Mr. Bennett. Here we are.
Yes. And I'm sure everybody's talked ad nauseum about the slap, but I still am shocked that as of our recording here, there's still no. I don't think I don't think Will Smith will be held accountable. Do you? Do you think that he'll be shunned at all, or?
No. It's like a couple articles in the past few days it proves if you have money or power or a big star, get away with whatever you want. It's just so
privilege,
crazy.
right?
Yeah.
And no, I never understood that sort of thing. But I guess, if you have privilege, you can pretty much do what you want. Well, that's how they always say the legal system, right? If you have enough money,
Yeah.
you usually keep yourself out of jail.
Well, I'll say this about the news cycle. I'm sure that Ginny Thomas, wife of Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas, was quite happy that happened on Sunday, because up until that point, her text messages to the White House and to the former Chief of Staff, Mark Meadows, was quite the topic on the weekend political talk shows, right?
Well, maybe it was a setup, because isn't QAnon and Scientology all kind of at the same ilk?
Oh, it's all the conspiracy stuff is wrapped
Lots of conspiracy
up,
theories and make believe, and somebody told me they think octopuses came here from another planet. I was reading that this week.
From another planet.
Yeah, because they're so smart. They said, we always have the idea of what aliens will look like, but the intelligence and the capability of an octopus as an alien creature, they think, is far more plausible than it looking like a person with two arms and two legs or something. That if we do find life somewhere, they might be octopods, octopedes. I guess they must have put together a spaceship and flew in. I don't know.
So that begs the question: what news sources are you reading these days?
Oh, I'll be like Sarah Palin. All of them.
I can see Russia from my porch.
I want to say it was, I stumbled, I watched My Octopus, the Teacher, whatever that thing was on that documentary on Netflix. And so I wanted to do something. Someone was going to serve octopus for a dinner I was going to, and I didn't want to eat it because I had this sense after seeing that movie how intelligent they are. Similar, I guess, to pigs and dogs, obviously. But smart octopus are even smarter. Anyway, so wherever I went, it might have been some BBC thing or National Geographic, one of those sites. I wanted to find out about the intelligence of the octopus, and it led me down the Google rat hole, down to that they may be aliens from another planet or something, which I was trying to figure out how they got here. Because you and I have talked about it. The closest planet, I think, if we were able to get in a little spaceship and fly under our current technology, would take us, 349 years to get there, maybe, or something?
Well, you're talking about out of our solar system, right?
Yeah, well, the next one that's in what do they call it? The happy zone, the Mary Jane zone. What do they call it? The zone where everything's
the
going to be?
Goldilocks zone.
That's Goldilocks, yeah. The Mary Jane, whatever it's called, zone.
Students, today your science teacher is sick, but we have a special guest filling in. It was Mr. Tim Bennett from the focus group will be teaching science today. Okay, kids, there's this magical thing around the sun called the belt, whatever, I don't know, the zone.
Well, does the sun shine on these planets that are outside the solar system?
Not our sun, but other stars do. Yeah, all these other exoplanets they've discovered do have their own suns and do have other planets in their little solar systems. But many of these planets that have been discovered by Kepler, which is this really cool piece of hardware that's been detecting the exoplanets, they're so big that the theory being that in order to be detected by the telescope, Kepler, they're rather large, and they're probably on the scale of a Saturn or a Jupiter. And there's thought that they're gas giants. Maybe they can or cannot have life on them because they're too close to the sun. Their stars are too far away. Yeah. Well, look, I'll just say this. If octopus are, in fact, from another planet, can they please do something to get some of us off this one?
Well, and then I read something else that I guess I never thought about that was shocking. They were talking about table salt. The table salt we eat and we shake on our
Yeah.
food. So how old do you think salt is?
Sodium? It's probably been one of the basic things that helped form the solar system, I'm imagining. Or you don't think it?
No, what they were saying was anytime you use just regular table salt that you have in your salt shaker, you go to a restaurant or you have your
Billions of years
crystal-
old?
so we're eating something that's millions of years old.
Yeah.
And it's fresh still. I
Well, it's fresh because it was mined. It's from being in front of the ground. Bob's mom.
guess I never thought about it.
It's amazing, isn't it? Like Bob's mom the other day, we were visiting her, and she was talking about TV, and out of nowhere, and we've known this about her for a while. She loves the show Ancient Aliens on the History Channel.
I got to tune in.
They talk about the Mayans, the Aztecs, how did the Egyptians build the pyramids? They didn't have any technology. We can't do it today, which is actually somewhat true. How did
Is
they
that
do
true?
it back then?
We could not
Well,
build
a
the
lot of
pyramids today?
engineers, a lot of people have done experiments trying to move these enormous blocks of stone from where the Egyptians quarried them to the great, or to the plains where they built the Great Pyramids and everything. And it's arduous at the best. And to build something like the Great Pyramid of Cheops, I mean, crazy.
Well, how did they get it to the top, right? I mean,
Yeah,
isn't that
exactly.
the whole
So
struggle?
Jean's like, she goes, John, I'm hoping that we've been visited in the past, and I'm hoping they come back, and I'm hoping they come back soon and take some of us with them. So that kind of says it all to me. Like, she's paying attention, but
So you think they came here and built some pyramids and left, got on the ship and left? It could be. I wondered about I was reading about the pyramids too. It's funny you bring that up. There's a bunch of people here I know that are heading out to Egypt in a couple weeks.
really,
And yeah, there's 10 of them going from town here.
did we
and
meet any when we were down at the?
Yes,
or
you met most of them probably. You met a lot of them. So they're all going. They're going to Jordan first, and then they're heading over to Egypt. But obviously, they've done a lot of research, and I know you're fascinated with Egypt
I'm
as well,
dying
and
to
the
go.
pyramids. But I just wondered how, because I was reading the same thing about how some of these enormous pieces of is it marble or granite, whatever it is, that there's no possible way that they could figure it. Then I thought, well, there were so many people, you had nothing to do, so you could probably put a whole bunch of them on something. I mean, what else were you doing? Watching
Did you
TV?
float that theory
You weren't
to
on
the tour
social.
group that was going to Egypt?
I don't know, but that's how I explain things. I mean, what else were you doing then? It's like Michelangelo when they go on and on about him. Well, yeah, he painted. He had nothing to do. There's nothing else to do. You either painted or you survived. You looked for food. What else did you do?
Well, yeah, it can't be understated that the Egyptians built what they did with slave labor from the many conquered territories.
Well,
they
that's
brought.
what they think. Well, that's what they think, right? But you don't know.
Yeah.
I guess because you said they can't figure it out.
Well, they've done a lot of ways with levers and pulleys and logs and rolling stuff, and how
Right.
long it would take to float a piece of stone down the Nile from here to here, and they really do, come up. They come up with one
short.
of those quizzical, like, wow, how'd the ancients do it? So I'm hoping that they tune into the focus group. The aliens are probably orbiting right now in cloaked ships, and they're like, that Tim and John, I think they need a ride to another solar system.
Well, you know who is you know who is tuning in? Hello, Vlad. I'm Mr. Putin. You never really responded to my email. Did you get the email I sent you about who's tuning in to the show?
You
Or you
sent
didn't pay attention.
no
You
no
don't
no
pay attention to my stats when I send them. I understand. You're
You
very
posted something on Facebook.
busy. I posted something on Facebook too, but I went. Now, usually our show, it's because of the World Wide Web. We're available everywhere, and it's always the United States, obviously, because we live here. Then followed by usually Canada, the UK, and then it switches between Mexico, South Korea for some reason is always in the top 5, France, the Netherlands, ... And then you go down the list. So I thought, this is interesting. So I went and I looked on our service to find out who's tuning in now, what countries are the top. And while it's still the United States and still the UK, the next top 3 for the last 6 months have been Russia, Poland, and Pakistan. And I can't explain it.
Unless
Russia, particularly. Russia, when you look back at the history of that, since we've been tracking this for the last, say, 6-7 years, since we did this video, Russia shows up, maybe in 40 to 50 range in terms of somebody tuning in. But to be number 3, I'll check it again this week and see. So anyway, I think maybe with them cutting off the internet, they're trying to find their entertainment as many places as they can. So why not tune in to us?
Well, welcome, comrades.
Yes, there you go.
And with that,
What caught your eye? Here's what Tim and John found.
Speaking of out of this world, Lance Armstrong. Now, we were, obviously Lance Armstrong. This story popped up, and it's kind of an old story, news story. And it, back in, 2013, when he admitted to Oprah Winfrey that he, in fact, had been doping.
Yeah.
And at that time, he was worth, they said, somewhere upwards of $200 million plus in terms of sponsorship and everything. And as soon as he announced this, he had lost hundreds. He had lost at least $110 million. Plus, he then had all kinds of fees he needed to pay for legal fees to litigate this whole thing about the fraud. And he was stripped of all of his wins, his 7 wins at the Tour de France. So, but they did say his agent and Lance at the time, when he was at the top of his game, would invest in a lot of different companies, and sometimes they were new companies or new ventures that might not have been heard of, or you just couldn't think were possible. But he'd throw $100,000 at it, which would be like you and I throwing $100 at something, probably. So in 2009, they said he invested $100,000 with Chris Sacca, who had started a hedge fund or a company called the Lowercase Fund. And they would invest in different projects that were about to take place or about to launch. And he had this investment of $100,000 netted him by last year somewhere in the range of $30 million. And they said after you deduct fees and some of the other taxes or whatever that come with it, cleared him of $20 million. They asked him about it. Bloomberg was just doing this recently, checking. For some reason, they were checking his net worth. And they asked him about this huge chunk of money that he got out of Uber. And he said, I invested in Chris Sacca. He said, I didn't even know he did Uber or really know what Uber was, but I believed in Sacca and in his investment strategies with his funds. And they said that thankfully he did that because it ended up saving his family, he said. That $20 million that he's ended up getting from Uber really, he said, saved his family in terms of them being able to currently survive. Now, they say currently he's worth around $50 million because he made some of these great investments. I'm not so sure if you took the 20 or 30 away from 50 million, I think he'd still be okay at 20 million, don't you? I think you and I could live on that.
He could probably live on 3, right?
Yeah. Well, who knows the way he had houses in Hawaii and houses in Austin and houses in Aspen, and you might have to downgrade or downside.
I think the moral of this story, which fascinates me a great deal, is you have to have money to make money often.
Exactly.
And you have to be able to throw it away, because he made investments not guaranteed that they would ever pay back. And the normal person like you and me would actually think twice about it and say, wait a minute, that's X number of mortgage payments, car payments, college, take your pick, right?
Yep. I should look it up, but he invested back when SiriusXM started, and I believe he was on the... I think he was given stock at $12 a share. I don't think Sirius has ever gone above. Do you know where they are now? I don't think Sirius ever went above the $3 after they merged with XM. But he had his own channel when they first launched, 15 years ago or so. And he took all of his money, all of his payment in stock. And but I don't think that one worked out as well as obviously some of these. Now, another thing we missed. I'm not so sure we would have scraped together 100,000 and dumped it into Uber. Would you believe Uber would be the success it was?
No, because I live in New York City, and I know that getting a car was often as simple as raising your hand, aka hailing a cab. So this idea, now, that was always fraught with trouble, right? Bad weather, cab free zone, time of day, shift change. But the idea of an app that would have you call a car
And I
just
learned,
have you, yeah.
and I learned from your business partner, Greg, hide your suitcase. Because when I used to leave meetings, and if I was on an overnight, no cab would ever stop because they didn't want to go to the airports.
Airport, yeah.
And so I would hide my bag behind something or behind. Then I'd stop. Then I'd grab my bag. Oh, and they'd start yelling. Take me to
And there's
take me to
law
LaGuardia.
says
Yes.
they're supposed to take you to the airport.
Now it's funny you brought up New York taxis because this story I found because I found another one about for anybody visiting New York City or for you people who live in New York City, they're now adding New York cabs to the Uber app.
I was surprised by this. Was
Did
this
you see
because? Yeah, is this because they're so? Are many drivers no longer doing Uber driving, and it was confusing to me.
I thought it was a smart thing to do because if you're a cab,
Yeah,
I thought it was just a smart thing to do because I do believe you would know better, but I do believe Uber hurt some of the taxi business because if we were at a restaurant, you and I did it when we were in Manhattan many times. You would just get on right before we were going to pay the check or right after we paid the check and we were ready to leave. You'd hit the app and there'd be a car right out front for us. And we could head to the train station or whatever. You can't do that with a cab necessarily. You'd have to go out, as you said, and hail one the old-fashioned way. And hopefully
and it's a bit of rolling the dice, right?
Right. And if it was bad weather or something, it would be difficult. So I thought it was a good thing to put the cabs. Now, I guess you have to decide, probably like you do with UberX or whatever, is would you consider a ride in a taxi? I'm guessing.
Sure.
I don't know.
I would. Yeah.
So, and I'm wondering how the fee works. I guess it will be
They'll probably take a percentage of the cab's fare.
fair. Okay.
Or the cab has to do it for a flat rate, I'm guessing, because that's
Yeah.
how Uber kind of operates.
Yeah, I was
You
wondering.
know, I
about
should
that.
try that. I wonder if
And
the
tipping
app
as
actually,
well, right?
Yeah,
'Cause
tipping's usually you could build it in or do it afterwards. Yeah.
I thought the joy about Uber initially was no tipping.
Oh, and then that changed really quick.
Yeah, I don't like that.
That changed really quick. Yeah.
Anyway, Lance made a good investment, and hopefully you all made good investments too, as our retirement funds have been taking a hit. But it's
Of
another
late,
show.
yeah.
Yeah. What caught your eye?
What caught my eye is something Tim and I have been talking about for a while offline, and that is the People's Convoy down in Washington, D.C. So, as many of you might know, there was a trucker convoy that basically shut down Ottawa. Was it Ottawa, Tim? I'm pretty sure it was Ottawa, right?
The capital of Canada. Yep.
Yeah. Well, and it was all about vaccine mandates. And so a bunch of people here in the U.S. decided that we should do the same thing. We should shut down the nation's capital with our own trucker convoy and fight mandates, even though mandates were on their way out because the Omicron wave was fading and we're in a different spot now. But still, we're going to have a convoy. So the headlines that have come out of the trucker convoy have been at some times ludicrous, at other times hilarious. This one in particular, trucker convoy leader says truckers are peeing their pants in D.C. traffic. And the picture that I chose for this, if you happen to be watching on YouTube, is one that Tim brought up because Tim was going to do a caught my eye about the lone cyclist, this guy on this bike who rode like at 10 miles an hour with some slow speed with this entire convoy behind him through the streets of D.C. I mean, you couldn't make it up. It was hysterical. So, yeah. So there's a bunch of little trucker things. I'll kick off. Uh-oh. You don't want that.
Well, what was funny about that too is they were trying to. The people would come up to him, these other truckers, and yell at him, "You're in the way! You're in the way!" and you could hear the trucks blowing their horns. He goes, "I can't hear you! I can't hear you!" Now, first of all, DC has more people living in it than all of Canada, so obviously, the truckers probably didn't anticipate that there would actually be traffic in DC. Right?
Yeah. And they've been parked. They've been hanging out at the at a racetrack about an hour out of the city. So, in terms of the price of gasoline, and every day they get in their trucks and they go around and they either go into the city to clog the streets or they do the Beltway. It should be noted that as of yesterday, Tuesday, the trucker convoy, the People's Convoy, has announced that they're breaking the camp up and they're now going to be heading back towards California. And because of the cold weather, the organizer promised everyone they would be taking a southerly route so that they can enjoy some sunshine and some warmth.
Well, where are they going? Do they work?
These are all independent truckers, so I guess they haven't been hauling any cargo because you have to the independent guys have to bid on those jobs, etc.
They're probably paid.
So the ones that were peeing in their pants were very upset because they were having trouble, while the convoy was circling the Beltway, they were having trouble pulling over and or using their bathroom. So they would pee in their pants multiple times a day.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay.
I wonder if Tuckums had talked about that.
And by the way, all the
Golden
reporting on
showers.
this, if you've read any of the press, they have had a field day with writing about this. So here's another. I'm just going to give you a snippet from another trucker story. So one day the convoy was invited to speak at a children's kindergarten in Washington. And as they pull up, the truckers realize they're going to be talking to little kids. So the best they can do is toot their horn and have the kids chant freedom, sort of like to London, freedom, 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 like London Bridge is falling down or something. So the writer says this, though, in the art. I just love this. While several of the truckers, including some other of the well-known trucker streamers, because people were live streaming this, attended the school, more rolled right on by into yet another day of looping the Beltway around Washington, D.C. Many of the interviews the live streamers conducted with the teachers, students, and parents in the parking lot were drowned out by the cacophony of truck engines, horns, and Jake brakes. So they're always at a cross purpose. And then he finished the article by saying this. After the children went back into school, the live streamers continued to chat in the parking lot with parents and other participants about various conspiracy theories. Do you need to read anything more than the fact that, let's talk about China shipping in the paper ballots or the bamboo threads or what?
Well, what are they spun up about? Because the mask mandates have essentially all been lifted. It's a convoy without a cause. I mean, what are they doing?
To your point, one writer says, the truckers' convoy, how did he put it? He goes, they've been flailing. Here we go. The convoy has been casting about for a raison d'etre. Some kind of thing since states nationwide have relaxed their mask and vaccine mandates. The truckers' original cause, COVID-19 restrictions, has ceased to be a galvanizing force. So now it's generic anti-government gripes like undocumented immigrants, gas prices, critical race theory, and the BLM movement remain, though the crowd of truckers appears to be thinning. And of course, this was written before they announced their eventual breakup. So the People's Convoy is what caught my eye this week, and it's over, folks. But no more fun stories about peeing in cups or peeing in your pants or going up to little kindergartners singing songs about freedom.
Freedom. When we were on Sirius XM, we had a lot of truckers that used to tune in because of the satellite. And I remember
truckers, yeah.
Remember we were going to try to get one to come into Manhattan and give you a ride around the block at Rock Center.
Yeah,
Because you've not been in a big rig and you wanted to take a spin. That would have been.
We had a couple of great truckers that we used to call all the time, and they were smart. Yeah. These guys were they were really fun, engaging. Yeah, I have a feeling that some of our truckers, might not have been at the People's Convoy.
No. Well, most truckers are hardworking, and you have to work. So I don't know. That's why I was saying I think these are probably paid antagonists from some political, political PAC committee or something because
that got them going. Yeah.
Yeah, political action committee. Don't you think?
There you go.
Don't you have to work?
Yeah, you got to earn a buck, right?
Yeah, a lot of these truckers rely on moving freight, not wandering around D.C. spending money.
Yeah. So moving on, folks. Many of you know that Deep Discount is a partner of ours here in the Focus Group, and we would love you to visit their site by visiting ours, focusgroupradio.com. Click on the Deep Discount logo and go down the rabbit hole and start your shopping extravaganza. Tons of things to get there, including movies, books, TV shows, games. It goes on and on. LPs even, if you're an LP fan, and Tim and I kind of wish we had some of our LPs now and then. But the month of March was a site-wide sale, and there are lots of deals left. And in the month of March, because of the awards ceremonies that went on this month, concluding with the slap heard around the world, we're giving away Focus Group Radio socks if you buy something from Deep Discount. Just share with us what you purchased. Maybe it could be the receipt or a photo of what you got in the mail. Send it to letters@focusgroupradio.com. That's letters@focusgroupradio.com. Include your mailing address, and you're going to get some Focus Group Radio socks. So in honor of the site-wide sale, Mr. Bennett, what was your pick this week?
Well, I will say that you always say you can get lost at deep discount, and it reminds me of when before the internet, I used to spend probably 2 or 3 hours a week at Tower Records on average, just
Oh,
going through
yeah,
stacks and
totally, totally.
learning about music, learning about movies or whatever. Tower Records had all kinds of different great media there, and so deep discount has kind of taken that taken place of the exploration I would have at Tower Records. And I popped and found this thing called The Wild Wild World of Jane Mansfield. And it was released in July of 2020, but it was originally done in 1968. It's a 90-minute special interest documentary. And I watched snippets of it. Let me read what it says. It says, from producer Dick Randall comes the notorious Mondo mashup in which a Jane Mansfield sound-alike narrates footage of Jane being chased by paparazzi in Rome, wearing bikinis in Cannes, and partying with drag queens in Paris, before suddenly veering into graphic photos of her horrific accident and posthumous tour of her Hollywood mansion. And it says Mickey Haggerty co-stars in this deranged kaleidoscope of titillating insanity. And it is, my mouth was, I can't wait to get it. If you like Grey Gardens, I think this will be up there. She's wandering around Rome, and people are pinching her butt. Like men are coming up to her, and she's laughing and saying, "Well, that's just what men do." And then next thing, she's topless, but then it veers off. She's with drag queens. She's having a great time, but then it veers off into these graphic photos of this horrific car accident that she had, and then they head over to her Hollywood mansion and to take a look inside of the mansion and see how she lived. And it is,
So it's a documentary.
I can't wait to get it. It's 16.25.
It is a
Blu-ray.
documentary.
Yeah, but because she's dead, because she was killed, so they have a Jane Mansfield look-alike, as if so they've got all of this archival footage, black and white, of her doing this European sort of tour, and but have a sound-alike that's narrating it with the film. And it's a combination, John. It's a combination of Faster Pussycat, Kill Kill, and Grey Gardens.
Okay, meets Grey Gardens. Well, folks, if Tim is tongue-tied,
Yeah.
which so rarely happens, in a good way, I would say The Wild Wild World of Jane Mansfield needs to be put on your list. Was it an hour and a half or 2 hours?
It's 90 minutes.
Oh, that's your favorite time.
Yeah, 90 minutes. But it is just an absolute train wreck. I mean, just the clips that I'd seen, and I started watching them, and then I thought, well, I've got to add this to my collection, because this is one of these things where you have friends over, and maybe you'll have a drink or something.
You pop it on.
And you pop it on and let it ride.
Well,
So,
I'm
what
not
did you
sure if
find?
my pick is anywhere near this vein, but it does deal with damaged people, and it's one of my I saw it pop up at deep discount. It's a new Blu-ray, and I remember this movie. You know, I just love this film. I don't get to see it too often, but I picked Ordinary People.
Oh.
Oh yeah. Mary Tyler Moore, Donald Sutherland, Timothy Hutton, Judd Hirsch, Elizabeth McGovern, and it's Robert Redford's directorial debut. Won an Oscar for Best Picture and Best Director and Screenplay and Supporting Actor, and it's based on the novel by Judith Guest. The moving drama tells the story of the Jarretts, an upper-middle-class suburban Chicago family being slowly torn apart by tension, lack of communication, and guilt in the wake of a tragic loss, and that would be Timothy Hutton's brother, in a boating accident. I have a clear vision of this movie. There's a scene where Mary Tyler Moore is packing to leave, and she's pulling a suitcase off a shelf, and she, you know, because this is Mary Tyler Moore like you've never seen Mary Tyler Moore. It's not like her goofing around with Lou Grant. This is her being like a really brittle, you know, I'm going to put this tragedy behind me thing. So, you know, we have Jane Mansfield, then we have Ordinary People, and now we have our release of the week, which is totally different and completely uplifting. If you've seen the first one of this, you're going to want the second, and that's the movie called Sing. This is Sing 2. And the description reads, looking for another triumph, Buster Moon, voiced by Matthew McConaughey, reassembled his menagerie of musical discoveries to mount a new show in the entertainment capital of Red Shore City. However, their backing will come through if and only if they can coax reclusive rock god Clay Calloway, played by Bono, out of a lengthy and self-imposed retirement. It stars the voice talents of Reese Witherspoon, Bono, Scarlett Johansson, Taron Egerton, Nick Kroll, and Tori Kelly, and of course Matthew McConaughey. As many of you know, I'm a huge fan of animation and animated films, and I think the Sing movies are intriguing to me because there's nothing harder, in my opinion, to animate than a character singing a song. So there you go.
Did you see the first one by any chance?
Yeah, I did, and I thought it was really hilarious. I thought it was kind of charming.
Yeah, I like these animation type movies, so I'll look forward to that. So, as John mentioned, if you have bought something off deep discount, be sure to send us proof of purchase at letters@focusgroupradio.com, and John will get you a pair of our famous socks. This week, our picks are at the site-wide sale at deep discount, spring site-wide sale. I picked The Wild, Wild World of Jane Mansfield. John picked Ordinary People, and the release this week is Sing 2. And you can, again, find deep discount by going to focusgroupradio.com and clicking on the deep discount logo. So, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we've got a business birthday and a little bit of shop talk, so stay with us.
You're listening to The Focus Group with Tim and John. Learn more at focusgroupradio.com. Now back to The Focus Group with Tim and John. Available pretty much everywhere.
Welcome back to the Focus Group. John Nash with, Mr. Tim Bennett. I was just playing with some of the video effects we can do in our broadcast. FocusGroupRadio.com is all you need to know about us and the show, including TFG Unbuttoned, our Tuesday podcast. And be sure to check out Deep Discount by going to FocusGroupRadio.com. Mr. Bennett,
Yes.
Without further ado, since we have a packed second half of the show.
Everyone does celebrity birthday greetings, but the Focus Group is the only show in the universe that celebrates business birthdays.
So our birthday this week, born on March 30th in 1926. He died January 2018 at 91. Swedish billionaire and business magnate, best known for founding IKEA, Ingvar Kamprad. Sweet. So he's the founder of IKEA.
How do you pronounce that? Kamprad?
Kamprad. Yeah. So
Okay.
I actually went. I could pull it up if I don't. Do you want me to have? I think I can actually play the actual sound. Maybe you can hear it. If did you hear it?
No.
Oh, okay. It's just going through my earbuds. Ingvar Kamprad. That's so I went to a Swedish. How do you say it in English? And that's what I got. Ingvar Kamprad. So happy birthday to Ingrid. But he's the founder of IKEA. And you might want to know how the name came about. So the I and the K are for Ingvar Kamprad.
Oh.
And the other two letters, of the I key, EA, came from the farm he grew up on in Sweden. So that's how the name came about.
Totally made up name. Very cool. Okay, I like it.
Not a Swedish name, but just he made it up. So they said he started as a young child to have set his sights on business. He used to sell matches. He started selling them at the age of 5, and he figured out he could buy these matches in bulk and sell them individually and make coin. So he used to do that around his neighborhood in Sweden, and then he would from selling matches, and he realized he could make a profit. He then started selling fish, Christmas tree decorations, seeds, ballpoint pens, and pencils. And so when he turned 17, his father then gave him a little extra cash as a reward for his studies. So he took that money and he founded IKEA at his uncle's kitchen table. So he added to his portfolio furniture. His business was mostly mail order, And he said he got the idea for furniture that could be assembled and disassembled after he had trouble finding a small table or fitting a small table into the trunk of his car. As a sidebar, it was reported that he was a Nazi sympathizer in World War II. And
Wow. Okay.
so while they do say there was some, I didn't go down that rabbit hole, but they did say that there was some papers and things that would lead you to that. But as he got older, and that he certainly wasn't a fascist or a socialist. He drove a decade-old mid-price Volvo. He lived in a modest home, entirely made out of IKEA furniture that he assembled himself, he said. He was listed as the 8th wealthiest person in the world by Bloomberg, and his wealth was somewhere around $58.7 billion.
Wow. Okay. Crazy.
And but money he could actually access because of things that weren't tied up was only about $3.4 billion. They said he also, in an interview in 2006, aside from his 1993 Volvo, he flew economy class. He encouraged IKEA employees to use both sides of the page when printing or writing. He recycled tea bags. He was known to also keep the salt and pepper packets from restaurants. He also would visit the IKEA stores for a cheap meal, and he was known all over for his frugal behavior. He would purchase wrapping paper and presents in post-Christmas sales. We've all done that. He lived in a very modest home, again, entirely furnished with IKEA furniture, which he says he assembled himself. And he said the one thing about their company is what they're known for. I didn't realize this, that they have such cost controls and operational details and improving on product development that they try to lower prices by an average of 2 to 3% each year. I thought that was unheard of.
That I didn't know that fact. And as you were reading about his lifestyle or telling us about it, he reminds me of the Swedish Warren Buffett.
Yeah. Well, here's where it gets a little funny, though.
Okay.
So after we hear about all that fabulousness, right, about how penny pinching is, he said he explained his social philosophy in a book or a paper he wrote called The Testament of a Furniture Dealer. And he quotes, "It's not only for cost reasons that we avoid the luxury hotels. We don't need flashy cars. We don't need impressive titles, uniforms, or other status symbols. We can simply rely on our strength and our will. However, Kamprad owned a villa in Switzerland, a large country estate in Sweden, and a vineyard in Provence, France. He also drove a Porsche for several years." Hello, comrade. So I love that. I'm going to recycle a tea bag. I'm telling the employees to write on recycled paper, and meanwhile he's driving his Porsche around his vineyard in Provence.
Provence, yeah. No, none other than Provence, yeah.
So
do as I say, not as I do.
Exactly. He named his 3 sons the sole heirs of IKEA, which was estimated at the time of $1.5 billion. And I don't know what happened here. I didn't look it up, but he had an adopted daughter. She only got $300,000. I didn't think that was very nice.
No, not since the other ones got billions.
The boys got
right?
$1.5 billion. The adopted daughter Annika got $300,000. He died of a pneumonia in Sweden at the age of 91, and he also gave a big chunk of his estate. So that's why it was only 1.5. A huge chunk of the estate would go to northern Sweden in the Norrland area, where it was very sparsely populated, and he was hoping that the country could develop it and make it possible for young people to live there. So that's where he wanted his money to go. Happy birthday, Ingvar Kamprad, founder of IKEA.
Owner of a Provence vineyard.
Recycle the tea bags. Fly economy.
I love these
You want to ride in my Porsche? Meet me at my villa in Switzerland. Oh, wait a minute. No, I'm going to be at the vineyard in Provence.
Yeah. All employees must walk, take bicycle, or mass transit. Boom. How do you like the Carrera?
You know, right? And you know, right, exactly. And you know that the vineyard in Provence, and I'm sure the country estate in Switzerland probably were not furnished in IKEA. Maybe a couple of pieces. Maybe the candles in the little
room.
tin. The candles in the little tin we like, or something.
Yeah,
But
no.
I like IKEA. I'm not. The old furniture from IKEA was quite good. It's sturdy. Some of the new stuff, not so much, I guess. But for candles or houseware stuff, it was still a pretty cool.
I'm
pretty
looking
cool thing.
around our place, and I can tell you we have we have only four pieces of IKEA: two bookcases, a TV stand, and a little shelf thing. Beyond that, though, we've had some fails with IKEA.
Yes.
When a chair falls apart under a guest, it's kind of a problem.
Well, I'm sitting on an IKEA desk, which is
That was
actually quite
IKEA, your
nice, but
desk?
yeah, it's very sleek. That's the thing. You go when you go to these. You go to the Scandinavian countries. You feel like you're in an ABBA commercial, right, or something. Sweden and
Or
Norway,
that
Finland.
AbFab episode where she's having a flashback to a friend of hers who lives in an entirely white room, and I remember they bring a bottle of red wine. They have no idea where to put the wine because there's nothing in the room except a beanbag chair and white lights, and the hostess is like, "What do I do with this?" Oh, folks, we're not going to see a lot of those old shows.
If you change your mind, take a chance.
It's on me, yeah. All right, moving along. We have an article that we were going to discuss. Came out of BuzzFeed, and it caught my eye because we're not going to go through the entire article, but the headline reads as follows: Queer folks are sharing the unwritten rules they follow that most straight people are clueless about, and it's eye-opening. Not clueless to me and Tim and to every one of you, but apparently a lot of behaviors that a lot of us are familiar with from days gone by are still very much prevalent. So here, I'll just kick it off with the first. There are anonymous postings that people put on this Reddit feed. And the first one was, quote, "We live in the deep South. We avoid any and all kinds of PDA. We don't have the luxury of kissing each other goodbye, holding hands, or any other sign that we love each other." Funny thing to me, and it's not so funny, I think it's kind of sad and tragic, is that you could have written that in 1985, you could have written it in 1997, you could have written it in 2012, and here we are in 2022, and people are still monitoring their behavior based on where they're at because of the feelings that might be generated by someone who randomly sees you holding your partner or husband's hand, right?
Right. Yeah, I thought this was a good article because it I don't want to say it triggered, but it brings up an awful lot of things that for people in same-sex relationships, just I don't want to say it's almost on autopilot, right? You figured out how to manage some of these things in the workplace or in the in society, and so it was interesting to see all these anonymous people that had written things about whether they were traveling internationally or whether they would change. The one I thought was interesting was that the one guy that says, "As a gay man, I leave the room every time donating blood comes up. Stop asking if I'll go with you. I'm banned from doing so just because I'm assumed to be a major risk for HIV." And, we've all experienced that one, haven't we?
Well, and just to go off on a side tangent on the blood donation issue, I just got a note from someone in our building that they alerted us that the area needs blood. I feel like I'm getting smacked in the face when someone sends something like that because I'd love to donate, but because we're gay, we have these rules against us. And the fascinating thing about that is that recently a study indicated that more than 50%, I think this might be worldwide, of the new HIV infections that are occurring in the heterosexual community.
Right.
But no one's sitting down and asking them the questions that we get asked. So it's just Sam, that one, the blood one, just to me, it's like hypocrisy writ large, right?
Oh yeah. Well, don't they check blood anyway? I mean, they don't just take blood and use it. Doesn't it have to be tested? I thought
they put it through a system where they checked it and did, so yeah.
Yeah. And then there was the, I laughed a little bit about the one about the hotel where if you check in to a hotel with your partner, and they said, particularly if you're in a conservative area, they automatically will give you a room with two beds, even though you've asked for a king or asked for one bed. And some people say they just basically just take the bed and don't make a deal about it just because it's not worth asking for the big bed. Has that ever happened to you checking into a hotel?
Yep, and of all places, Las Vegas, and it was back in back in 1987 or 88. We were staying at the Hilton, the Las Vegas Hilton, and we get to the front desk, and the guy's like, do you want? He had assumed that we wanted like two queens or something, and we're like, well, we'll take a room with just one king. And the eyebrows go up and the clicking of the keyboard stops. He's like, 1 king. We're like, yeah, because we're together. Well, okay. And he gave it to us. But yeah, you had to just go through that, right? Which is just, yeah.
Well, I'm just always shocked. Now it was would you say the late 80s, but you still would think Vegas has seen it all, right?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, who cares? I mean, Vegas has always been the old Times Square of the country, hasn't it? I mean, some of the things you and I have seen on the Strip in Vegas. Woo!
And then here's a little minute things like this. When visiting certain places, I change my phone's wallpaper. Right now, it's my same-sex partner, but when I'm traveling, I switch it to a nature image, something innocuous that roving eyes won't scrutinize, just in case. Like you have to worry about that. I mean, that's why this article I thought was a good article.
Yep. The other one that I pulled out that I thought was interesting, it says, I used to plaster LGBTQ plus stickers on my car. It's always nice to show your support and be out and proud. A man once approached me as I was getting into my car with my child, and he screamed violent threats at us. It was terrifying, so no more stickers for me. I always like seeing the stickers because I'll go by and then I'll look. You know, you see an HRC sticker, you see something.
Uh-huh.
And I told you my coach, rowing coach, may he rest in peace, had bought a new Outback. He was excited and we got him a deal on an Outback. And he shows up and he's got a huge rainbow sticker on the back that he had seen at the Pep Boys. He bought it. Was one of these long ones, though, like a long, thin, like an inch long, 3 feet long and an inch tall. And he was, look at this sticker I got. Isn't it cool? And we looked at him. We said, Coach, do you know what that is? I just thought it was really cool, and it matched my paint really well in the car, and I just thought it was nice. Then we told him what it was. He ripped it off.
I remember that story. I like that story.
Now, meanwhile, he pulls up and he had the Village People playing on the car. So I'm not so sure what he was trying to relay to us. But we get in the car, we're on our way to breakfast, and he's got the nacho. He goes, these boys were given a bad rap. An old guy. These boys were given a bad rap.
On the Village People front, let's not forget that the former guy used to play Macho Man as he opened all his crazy rallies, right?
I did see an interview where somebody, he actually acknowledged that. People go crazy for that song. The gay anthem, he says. People go crazy for that song.
Yeah.
Well, we've seen that song probably.
So another one here is, this ties into the workplace too. Being careful about who you tell at work. Sure, they can't legally fire you for being gay, but they can come up with other supposed reasons to get rid of you, pass you over for promotions, or make your job so unbearable that you quit. And I've actually heard this from folks over the course of the last few years. So it's a lot has changed, a lot hasn't changed. That's why everything old is new again, right?
Yeah, whereas and I think that's a good point to end this on, is that many thought when with the advent of marriage equality that a lot of things were just going to all fall in place. Similar to everybody thought we'd have no race issues after we elected an African American president,
Obama.
which we all know is not the case. So it's still there's still discrimination out there, and there's still ways that LGBTQ people need to navigate to get themselves through the day. So we wanted to bring that up. So good story, John. Thank you for bringing that forward. Good piece. Hey, thanks for joining us. We appreciate the time you spend with us each week. Be sure to also take a listen to our podcast, which is TFG Unbuttoned. You could find that along with this show and all of our media housed at focusgroupradio.com. Our sponsors are also there. We covered 3 great movies this week. We think you should take advantage of at deep discount. The new release this week at deep discount is Sing 2. John recommended Ordinary People, and I picked The Wild, Wild World of Jane Mansfield. So I can't wait to get that, John. I'm going to have to get 2 copies, one for you and one for me.
Thank you.
Right. So we hope everyone has a good week. And remember, don't text and drive, arrive alive. And we will see you in the new week. Take care.
It's The Focus Group with Tim Bennett and John Nash. Accessible on all platforms. Subscribe, like, and rate us on your platform of choice. Learn more at focusgroupradio.com.
That was a stunning focus group.